Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Life Struggles. I did this video instead of one I had planned. I think someone out there is meant to hear it. A little background information. A couple weeks ago, I went on a trip. And before I went on the trip, I knew there was something I needed for the trip that I'd have to use later. And instead of going out and getting it, I kind of procrastinated and I did some other things. And I said, okay, I'll just buy it when I get there. Well, I got there and this thing that I needed, they didn't sell in that city. So I ended up running out and then I didn't have the things I needed. This isn't something that I just do once. This is something I've actually struggled with for quite a long time, kind of a self-sabotaging behavior. My personal reason that I believe that I do things like this is that I believe I don't deserve to have good things or for good things to happen to me. So I do a little bit of self-sabotage. Does that sound like something that you do? Well, keep listening. I think part of the reason I do this is I have a fear of success and what's going to happen if I am successful. Also, could be a bit of low self-esteem. I did a little research on this so I can help you guys out and hopefully help myself out along the way. People that have this type of behavior often struggle with the mental discomfort you may have holding two conflicting ideas at the same time. Another big word for that is cognitive dissonance. Human beings like to have a consistency between their beliefs and actions. Maybe there's some other ways. This is one of the things I talked about. Procrastination. That's showing others you're never really good and you want to put off a good outcome. Maybe you feel like you're going to disappoint somebody or you're going to fail, or maybe that you're going to succeed. So this is something I find myself doing. Maybe you're a perfectionist. Holding oneself to an impossible standard will cause delays and setbacks. So it might seem like a good idea to hold off until you can do it perfect, but maybe you'll never do it at all. The other thing is when something does go wrong, and if you're a perfectionist, then everything kind of falls apart on you. And then perfectionists will end up feeling ashamed. They feel ashamed and they feel like they're going to let everyone down, or they have let everyone down. So here's some symptoms of people that have self-sabotaging behavior. Maybe this is one of yours. You have low self-esteem and you rarely take chances. That can be me. I just think, well, I don't deserve it, so why even try? Fear of failure is constantly on your mind. Your insecurities get the better of you all the time. You avoid things on your daily to-do list because you're too busy. That's kind of my excuse. Oh, I'll do it later. Oh, I'll do it later. Oops, now it's 10 o'clock and time for bed. I'll do it tomorrow. And then pretty soon you run out of time to do something and you just never do. You walk away from things that are too challenging, preferring to be realistic. You can kind of see a little bit with me also. Here's my question. I'm going to ask the question, and then I'll give you what the answer is. And then I'll kind of explain it, just so it doesn't come across the wrong way. So the question is, do you deserve to have good things? My answer is yes. I don't mean this in an entitled way, like, ooh, I am entitled to have good things, and people better give me good things no matter what I do or how I act, or if I even make an attempt to do anything. I don't mean it as in the world owes you anything, because you're not owed anything, honestly. Anything that's good out there that you want, you have to work for. I also don't mean it in a kind of a Joel Osteen prosperity gospel. God is the big sugar daddy that if you keep doing this, then he's going to give you all of these good things. I don't mean that either, because I think that's wrong. If we want something, I think we have to work for it. What I mean is that if you're constantly full of negative thoughts that you don't deserve to have anything good, that way of thinking is wrong. That you should put the effort into doing things in order to try to attain good things, that we should always work towards goals and being successful. Okay, so first let's define what is self-sabotage. So sabotage means to deliberately damage, block, or impair something so it doesn't work as intended. Maybe we don't deliberately block ourselves, but we might still do things that get in our way. And maybe other people see it as deliberate. Self-sabotage is when people do or don't do things that block their success or prevent them from accomplishing their goals. It can happen consciously or unconsciously. Self-sabotaging behaviors can affect our personal and professional success as well as our mental health. As somebody who struggles with that, I 100% agree, and maybe you do too. So one of the best ways to fix this is to practice self-awareness. We need to be aware of what's happening and how to avoid it. So a helpful way to begin identifying forms of self-sabotage is to frame your situation using the following sentence. I want to achieve, and state your goal, but I keep doing, and say your behavior. For example, I want to get a passport, but I keep missing the appointment. And then we can keep looking and think, where does this behavior come up in other ways? Maybe you realize that you miss other types of appointments, or that you never put your appointment in the calendar. So if you can figure out the things that you do that are sabotaging what you're trying to get to, then you can learn how to avoid that. So here's some patterns. Moderation. People who struggle with moderation often have difficulty setting boundaries. Often people like this will turn into people pleasers, and they'll just keep saying yes to everything until there's so much stuff that they can't finish anything. Another one is what they call running on empty. You're just doing so many things, so many other things, that it becomes difficult to work on the goals that you've set. Make sure you're doing everything in moderation and getting done what you set out to do. And then our last reason, lack of communication. So maybe you know you need help on something, but you just don't ask. And that can go back to the feeling like you don't deserve to win. And so if you don't ask for help, no one's going to help you. And then you're going to fail. And then you can say, see, I knew it. I deserve to fail. That's something I can identify with also. Develop self-awareness. We talked about self-awareness. Before we can fix what's happening, we need to know what's happening, try to find out why it's happening. So do you wait until the last minute to start projects? Do you pick fights with others? And that goes back to what I said before. I want to achieve something, but I keep doing this. Once you've identified the goal and behavior that's blocking it, you can start to understand what the negative behavior is actually telling you. And a lot of times when we're being self-destructive is part of anxiety. We're too anxious about what's going to happen if we succeed, so we don't even try. Write it out. If you're having trouble identifying your patterns, start by keeping a journal. As you continue to write about your goals, you may notice yourself complaining about the same thing over and over. To go along with that, if you've identified it and you have a good friend or family member, or even if you want to pay for somebody professional, then talk it out. Sometimes self-sabotaging behavior is a result of past or childhood trauma. We might develop survival strategies that keep us from further harm. Unfortunately, when these strategies outlive their usefulness, it becomes difficult to break them. Okay, so we've practiced our self-awareness to try to discover what's happening. We've written it down. Now, create a plan and do it. When you pinpoint the behavior patterns you want to break, create a plan for how you'll address them. For example, if you know that your self-sabotaging thoughts sneak up before you put an appointment on the calendar, decide to put it on anyway. You can make it a personal rule for yourself. All my appointments go on a schedule, no matter what. Once you follow that rule long enough, then it'll become a habit. And we've broken one of the self-sabotaging things. Practice mindfulness. Self-defeating behavior patterns are often difficult to break. They may be coping mechanisms to help you deal with past traumas. Or they may have prevented you from achieving goals that meant a lot to you. Once you start unpacking them, you'll see the impact of these patterns on your professional, personal, and romantic relationships. So it's not going to be something that you can finish the video and work on tomorrow and say, oh, yay. It's not going to happen anymore. It's going to take a lot of work. And you're going to have to put a lot of effort into it. Last one, communicate. In some ways, the last step is both the simplest and scariest. People who self sabotage will do just about anything to avoid drawing attention to their insecurities. Telling people what you're afraid of might seem like jumping out of the pan and into the fire. But communicating can have several benefits. For one, voicing a fear often makes it seem less frightening. For another, sharing your goals to help build accountability and support. To kind of sum it up, we need to make ourselves aware of what we're doing. We need to write down what we're doing. We need to set some goals and make a plan. We need to follow the plan. And we need to not be afraid to talk it out with others, whether that's the plan's not working or the plan is working. As always, I'm going to leave you with a couple Bible verses. Unless I say so, these usually come out of the King James Version. I just like the way it sounds. 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And so that one's pretty simple, I think, to understand. We don't have to be afraid. The next one, Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. God's got you. Thank you for watching. If you're struggling with things like I am, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, leave a comment, and tell your friends. And if you want to watch some more of my videos, they're up there in the corner. Thank you.